Matt, first off, I love the movie. I thought it was fantastic. I want to know, Galactus or Godzilla? Who's your money on in the big fight?
Oh, God. That's a tough one. I think I'd probably have to pick Galactus. You know, he's not just a lizard brain, a human brain. Yeah, he probably has strategy.
Also, if he's taking down whole planets, I mean...
I know. He's got heralds and everything, too, on his side.
Right.
Yeah. But there is a great, Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four that came out this year, Marvel. And, I think there have been some other crossovers, too. So, great.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to thank you for not making Galactus a cloud this time around, but I can only imagine how difficult it is to bring that guy to the big screen. How did you approach Galactus differently in terms of other Marvel villains, be it tonally or thematically?
Well, Galactus is a cosmic force of nature, right? He's unknowable and unstoppable. So he doesn't come with the same motivations, right? He's not interested in punching anybody, torturing anybody. He's just going to eat a planet because he needs to eat a planet. And he wants to eat planets with life on them because they're tastier and they give him more nutrients, and that's it. So, that's part of it. There's a line in the movie where they ask the surfer, what does Galactus want? And she says, he doesn't want, he feeds. And that's about it. So there's something terrifying about that, this cosmic shark, this ancient cosmic vampire who, is unknowable and unstoppable.
Now, the Fantastic Four have historically had a difficult time, in live action. And I want to know, what do you think previous adaptations struggled with that and what was most important for you to sort of capture to separate yourself and make yourself different?
Well, I was thinking mostly about the comic books. I was thinking less about the live action adaptations. There are many people huge fans of those and feel very fondly about them and never want to say anything about them negatively. I enjoyed them when they came out, watching them. It's just that I personally am a big comic book fan, a big fan of Kirby and Lee. And when I was thinking about how to build this movie, I was looking back at that first initial run. This was a bold experiment to center a superhero team around a real family. And they succeeded because they're relatable, they're like us. So I was thinking, how do I take from the comics what I love so much, but also bring my own personal experience to it? Like, I'm a husband, I'm a father. The most fantastic thing that's ever happened to me is my baby being born, and this is about a journey into the fantastic. And it's about meeting Galactus and going into space, but it's also that journey into the unknown of raising a small child. And those are both equally fantastic.
I love that so much. And I wanted to say that I really did feel like that I've never seen Kirby's imagination brought more to life than in your film, which I loved so much. And I want to know if there were any specific Kirby issues or storylines that you gravitated towards for inspiration when you were making this.
Issue 1, 48 through 50. Those are the classic ones. Obviously, 1, introduces Mole Man. They're battling Giganto. There's a lot of obvious reference points in that. And then 48 through 50, the Watcher comes, the Surfer arrives, Galactus comes. It sets up our sort of key story.
Now, there's also a great homage to Fantastic Four #1, the cover. Yeah. And I wanted to know what went into including that Easter egg in the film.
It sort of felt like something we were always wanting to bring that into the film and sort of trying to figure out how we could do it. We wanted to skip over the origin story. We wanted to make sure we were joining up with these guys as they were living their life. They were already the Fantastic Four. People already knew who they were, but I needed to give the audience just enough information, especially those people who weren't as familiar with the Fantastic Four, who they were and how they got there. And it just made sense that Giganto could be one of those things to showcase them working as a team, to show their powers, before we kind of jump into them living their life 4 years after.
I thought that was such a brilliant way to do it, too. I loved that whole sequence that the newscast were kind of explaining the 4 years previously and everything. And there are a lot of deep cut Fantastic Four villain references that you make in the film. I mean, there's Puppet Master, Mad Thinker, Diablo, just to name a few. Setting Dr. Doom and Galactus aside, and obviously as a big Fantastic Four nerd yourself, who is a lesser known villain that you would love in the future to see adapted in live action?
I mean, you mentioned the Puppet Master. I do love the Puppet Master. There's a John Byrne issue, I'm pretty sure, where he traps them in a tiny little village and he makes them into like small versions. They don't realize that they're living in a tiny little world. It's very WandaVision, actually, in a way, which is probably why I like it. The idea that they're in this constructed reality and they don't realize that they kind of wake up from it. So that's always appealed to me. I like that storyline.
One thing I have to bring up is we know John Malkovich got cut out as the Red Ghost, and What was the thought process behind cutting that scene? Were there any other scenes that you were just bummed didn't make it into the final film for whatever reason?
I mean, there's always stuff, you know, I hate to say it, you have to kill your babies, as they say, right? And literally in this movie, that's a very sort of, it takes on a different meaning entirely. But Malkovich is amazing. He's an amazing person. He's one of my favorite people. He's such an incredible actor. And the fact that he was generous to come and play this part, and he crushed it. He did such a great job as the Red Ghost. But we had so much stuff to set up. You know, we had to set up the four, all their individual relationships with each other. We had Galactus, we had Surfer, we had to set up this retro future world in a different universe, and it just became like, how much time do we have for setup before we can start our actual story and get going with our narrative? So ultimately some things had to go that really make me sad, and that's top of the list.
Fingers crossed we'll get to see him one day, maybe in the Blu-ray release or something like that.
Where there's little snippets of Reed battling the apes in there, you know, that you see both in the front and also in the credits, but not of John.
Now, without spoiling anything, the first post-credit scene is going to have people talking, for sure. I know the Russos directed the post-credit scene in Thunderbolt, so I want to know, did they step in here, or was this all you?
They did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, this was done during production of Avengers Doomsday.
Oh, okay. Amazing. Well, it's a great post-credit scene. I'm excited for people to see it. When you direct an ensemble like this, and knowing that the Russos are going to be utilizing these characters moving forward in Doomsday, you know, considering that you were so instrumental in developing these characters in this film, is it difficult for you to sort of let go of them and just sort of give the reins off to another set of directors?
Not at all. I mean, especially when I'm handing them off to the Russo brothers, who are amazing at what they do, and they're lovely, generous people, and they were, you know, very involved. You know, as we were making this film, they wanted to visit our sets and watch scenes as they were coming together, and to get to know these characters so they could treat them, treat them well, do right by them in the next movie. So they're really good protectors of these characters as well. But I often think of working at Marvel as like running a relay race, you know, and so you pass that baton, you run as hard and fast as you can with it for that section of the race that belongs to you, and then you pass that baton. I passed it on to Joe and Anthony, and they're off and running, and that's great. And the same with Wanda, you know, like they had introduced, other people had introduced, Joss Whedon had introduced Wanda, you know, and Vision was introduced earlier, you know, so I was just picking up the baton and running with them. Yeah.
It's almost like comic books in that way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Now, who are you, as a fan, most excited to see the Fantastic Four team up with once they make their way over to the 616?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not speaking with any knowledge
as
of the
fan,
film. Just I'm speaking as a fan. I am a huge Spider-Man fan, and one way I sort of found myself to Fantastic Four was through team-ups. Like there was, you know, classic team up between Johnny Storm and Peter Parker, and I always loved that because Peter's a bit nerdy, and you know, I was more of a Peter Parker in high school than a Johnny Storm, who's super cool. And I like the idea that they were buddies, and that, you know, I think Spider-Man and Johnny Storm, that's a combo I want to see.
Gotta say, the way that you present Reed's powers in this too, the way he's stretching along and swinging with some of the buildings, so Spider-Man-esque, and I've never really thought of it that way. I was like, I love the way that you were showcasing his stretching powers in this. So that was awesome. Now we know that we will see the Four again in Doomsday. Once again, I don't want to spoil anything, but I just want to ask, do you think we've seen the last of Galactus?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, you know, he's a cosmic force. He could show up at any time, and he did and has over 60 plus years of comics history.
You know, I just think about this, but with the multiverse at play, do you think that means there are multiple versions of Galactus also?
Possibly.
Jeez, that's awful. That's terrifying.
A lot of cosmic sharks out
There's
there.
a comic book storyline for you.
Yep.
I wanted to know, with social media being the way it is now, as a director, are you ever worried about something being taken out of context in your film or thrown onto social media as a meme and going viral for the wrong reason? Because I would think that when I work on something for like 3 or 4 years, that would just piss me off.
Sure, yeah, of course. You hope people don't take things out of context or misinterpret what you have to say, you know. But ultimately, so much is out of your control anyway, and hopefully the work speaks for itself.